Hello, everyone. Welcome to U&AI. I'm so excited for today's episode. We're going to be talking about the AI race. It's happening. Better models, more agents, more adoption, faster deployment. But the biggest transformation that's happening is underneath the technology with people. Today, I'm joined by someone I've followed for the longest time on LinkedIn. Eduardo, you do some great work in AI. Would love to introduce you to our audience. You are currently the AI lead and GTM specialist at AWS. So lovely to have you. How are you?
I'm okay, and Tiana, thanks a lot for having me today. I really love what you are doing in the field, so it's always a pleasure to discuss with folks like you. And I hope the next time it's going to be in person. I will invite you to our beautiful Spain anytime you want to come here.
Please, I will literally be on the next flight out. Spain is a place that I definitely have marked as somewhere I want to spend a lot of time. So let's talk a little bit about you for a second. You're not new to AI. You've been in the AI space for a little bit. Do you want to kind of talk us through a little bit of your history, some of the work you've been up to?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I was here before this was a sexy thing. So I remember, everyone was asking me many times what that it means, like AI, ML, even data before, right? So I have a technical background. I'm a computer scientist. I've been working as a developer many years ago, but most of my career I've been working on, like sales, research development, go to market. I started in the world of data and AI around 10 years ago, and I remember knocking the doors from like CEOs, CIOs, CTOs, and AI it was always the last priority. Like they had like so many pile of things on the table, before even talking into AI. And after like the GPT moment, everything changed overnight, and everyone wanted to do things with AI.
Yeah.
And it was more like a business priority. I think it was like a brand priority. So they wanted to show the world that they were doing things with AI. As you say, right now I'm leading go to market for AI here across EMEA, talking with many different customers, enterprises, startups, ISVs, having a lot of fun. But also it's been like super challenging. But yeah, happy to dive deep with you in this story.
You know, there's I remember getting into AI 8 years ago, 9 years ago now, nearly 9 years ago. And our CEO used to fight with us about having an AI budget at all. And we were trying to sell training data to AWS and to other folks in Silicon Valley. And back then, um, training data wasn't even a thing. Like people weren't talking about training data. So I remember those days. I remember also being the really uncool kids at the party and used to get sat back at the back of the room. And now people like you are traveling around the world and we're speaking on stages, and it's incredible. Okay, so you're right. There's been a huge shift. ChatGPT obviously was the first to blow up overnight, 100 million users. But since then, AI agents have kind of jumped into the fold with the rise of agentic. And businesses around the world are transforming, right? Everybody's spending money on AI. Every executive saying we need an AI process. Every executive believes this is going to be the best cost saving. But I believe the biggest transformation is happening at the people layer. Where are enterprises actually adopting AI right now? And let's talk about the intersection of people and how that impacts us and
Yeah,
employees.
it's a good question, right? And it's the right answer to say there is a difference between adopting AI rather than using AI. And most of the companies, most of the enterprises, like 2 years ago, 3 years ago, they started by using AI, and many of them they are keep using AI, but it's a real difference between using AI rather than adopting AI. And you're right as well. I mean, like everything starts by the people, right? So I think we have great technology today. To be honest, you mentioned at the beginning, right? Like we have like better and better models. But to be honest, like most of the use cases, they even don't require to have like better models. They require to understand which is the a problem that you are trying to solve, right? And what many of them they tried to do at the beginning was to start using AI. And when I'm talking about using AI, I'm talking about tools. And there are like so many different tools right now, right? Like you have this, like a ChatGPT, these clouds, and any software provider, they are like embedding AI into their services, right? And we have this false feeling of like productivity, right? Like everyone is saying like, hey, we are more productive now, and I do agree on that. I do agree on that, but still we have the same bottlenecks within the company. So it's like, like you are trying to run a race and you have like so many people with you running the race. Doesn't matter if like two of them, they are like super fast, because you still need to go with the others, right? So this is what it's happening in many different cases. And I agree that we need to start with the people. We need to train the people. We need to make sure like the people is not only ready in terms of skills, but I think it's in terms of culture, right? Because the culture it's changing a lot, and it's also about trying to understand the processes. I mean, like the processes within the business, right? Uh, um, you need to solve a problem, right? So if you don't understand that you have a problem in your business, what are you trying to achieve? And then, of course, you will realize, okay, which kind of profiles do I need? Which kind of like tools? Which is going to be like the architecture? But I think like everything starts with, again, the problem and the people who is going to be like participating in this solving problem.
Let's start with problem for a second. How do I identify a problem that's worth solving with AI? And then how do I then understand which tool, which model, or even which team I need to make that a possibility?
I think in this case, like most of the enterprises has made a lot of progress. I remember 3 years ago, most of the times I usually went to, like talking to enterprises and trying to do this kind of, discovery workshops to identify like, hey, which is a, a good use case to start working on, like to solve with AI. This is changing right now. I mean, like this actually had changed. Most of the time right now, like companies, they came to us and they say like, hey, I'm a retailer. I want to do this virtual try on, or I'm a gaming company and I want to use these, like multimodal models for video generation, or I have this kind of, productivity because I need to automate this, like a customer support process. So, I mean, like in terms of processes, I think they are doing really great. But the problem behind the scenes is like, okay, they are doing great, they have identified the use cases, but they are not even able to measure the ROI, right? Like, hey, how do I prioritize my use cases? Why I do need to start by this one instead of the other? Because there are like some cases that they're like super sexy in the sense that, okay, we can like create this kind of like a press release. We are talking about, okay, company X implemented the use case, but then it's not providing like so much value into the company. So they need to address this, and also they need to define the strategy in terms of, okay, do we want to start with more like internal productivity? This is going to be like more like customer facing. And I think, or this is also depending on the region, right? I mean, like I'm based in Spain, I'm based in Europe, and sometimes here, well, most of the times we are a bit, like careful about which kind of tools we implement to communicate with the customers, right? This is what I usually say, like, like external use cases. And we feel more comfortable doing, like AI for internal purposes. While other regions, and I think US is a good example, they are not afraid, and, like they are exploding many of these use cases. So I think it's more or less it's good in the sense that, hey, I have discovered this use case, but they struggle when they need to prioritize where they need to start.
Yeah, I think it's a really interesting framing. It's like, okay, we've gone through this. Let's identify a use case. Let's pilot as many things as possible. But the real transformation is really happening with matching the people with the with business problem, with the workflow, and of course, then the technology to back that. Um, how do you help companies identify that stack? And then I really want to focus on the people part. I think recently, one of the things I've started to notice is the programs that are scaling seem to have the combination of all. They have a really good engineering team, but they then have a workflow subject matter expert who has been a specialist in that particular team, whether it's claims, whether it's a banking process, that's actually coupled with the engineering team to help map the workflow to make sure that they're obviously solving that business problem, they're centering it around people, and then they're using engineering and their partners to bring in the right technology. So can we spend a second on that, and maybe any
Yeah,
thoughts you
sure.
have?
I think, like the biggest transformation in regards to people is like all the roles have changed in some way or the other, right? If you ask me about the top use case for, like adoption is of course, like generating code with AI, right? So every single developer, if you ask them how their work was like 3 years ago, it was like a different story. And we have assumed that. I mean, like most of the success of, like Anthropic, it's because of Cloud Code, right? And I think they were like super smart identifying the use case. And I'm saying this as, like as a preamble to understand what is going to come, right? In some way or the other, regardless your position, like you are a product manager, you are, I don't know, someone working in finance, you are someone working in operations, or you are working in front of the customer, I think everyone is becoming a builder. And by a builder, I mean like you can do many other things that you were not used to do in the past, right? And that's the biggest transformation right now. Because even I'm a developer, I was a developer in the past, right? And right now I'm kind of becoming again a developer. And that means like you need to redefine how you are doing things in your, like a daily life, right? I mean, like the things that you can do right now is not like, hey, it used to take a day, or it used to take a couple of days, and now it's taking a couple of hours. I'm talking about, like bigger orders of magnitude. I'm talking about even months, right? And that means like I can work much smarter, and I can identify and I can solve problems that in the past I was not able to do, right? So this is the biggest transformation, and it's not about using AI. I mean, like everyone can use AI. It's about, like redefining your skills, redefining your ambitions when you are using AI. And that's where most of the companies that are still stuck. They are giving, like tools to the employees, and they are trying to say like, hey, right now you can use AI, but they are not even a builder, right? They are not builders. They don't have these skills. That's why for developers it's different. That's why we are seeing this kind of, like a big explosion of new startups, like companies that, like they are reaching incredible numbers in terms of, like MRR or ARR every year. We have seen this before with companies like Cursor, with companies like 11 Labs, Lovable, and I think this is going to keep happening. And that's why I think like many enterprises, they are going to struggle in this world, because the role has changed at all. I mean, like right now I'm, like building stuff almost every day. And I think that's the biggest shift that we have seen right now, that everyone, regardless their role, it's becoming a builder. And everyone at their roles, they can do things. And you don't need to depend on many others. So I think that's one of the most important aspects. And again, the second aspect is like when you are working in big organizations, how you amplify this, like kind of new productivity or new way of doing things at a, like a bigger level. Because again, we still have the same bottlenecks, the same old processes, the same bureaucracy, the same politics, and it's happening almost everywhere. I mean, like it's like, hey, I want to do this, it's done, I want to move into production, and you are waiting just for someone in some remote area of, like Kansas, just to click on the mouse to say like, hey, approve it, right? So it's crazy.
I think what's really interesting about the comment you made around AI is impacting every role, and now everybody needs to become a builder could not ring more true. I was speaking to some marketing students a couple of weeks ago, and they were sort of saying, well, we're anti AI, it's taking our jobs. And I said, you could see it that way, or you could actually choose to learn the different tools out that enhance you as a marketer, whether that's learning vibe coding so you can build a website, whether that's learning things like voice applications, all of the marketing stack, creating content visually, videos, the whole thing. I mean, it's just such an exciting world for a marketer today to arm themselves with so many more tools to make them more efficient. And then you can apply your ideas to it. And these are final year students, and none of them had started experimenting with any of these tools yet. And I said, if you really think about it, if you learn these tools and you have the art of learning how to, or knowing how to market something, you can actually have a leg up on traditional marketers in the space. Because like someone like me, I'm going to hire, as a CEO of Optical Labs, I'm going to hire a marketing resource that actually understands the AI landscape so they can implement AI tools to help us with better campaigns to reduce costs. So I think that's the edge, and it's across every single role. That said, there is just so much resistance out there for folks to start to learn AI in their field. How do we start to encourage and enable employees, verticals that are specializing, like marketers and others, to start to experiment with AI tools, to start to learn this tool stack so that they're enhanced in some way?
Well, in many cases that's complicated. I mean, like I usually put this example of China, right? I've seen so many videos on the internet, like, like these kids from the very beginning, they are, like learning at, like the class. They know how to implement, like all these things with AI, running experiments with robots and so on. And I think this needs to start from the beginning, from the very beginning. And we need to be realistic, right? I mean, like, you have been in a company for such a long time. You are, I don't know, let's say 50 years old, following the same exactly process over and over again. And right now they are telling you like, hey, no, you need to use agents to do that. And we have seen the same resistance on, like a super senior developer saying like, hey, I don't need AI. I still need to write the code, right? And now it's starting to change, but it's only now. So don't expect someone who has been doing things in the exactly same manner for years that they are going to just jump into use AI. I think, like especially it needs to start from the from the very beginning, and we will have a gap, right? I mean, like we have people working on the companies already that they have like a different background, and we have students at the universities and the schools that they will start, like using AI. I usually listen so many times, like people complaining because, hey, students, they're using ChatGPT for everything. And it's not their fault. I mean, like they are trying to follow, like the easy journey, right? I mean, like it's the same thing for me at work. If they ask me to do so many things, it's like, okay, I'm going to spend like hundreds of hours doing a task that I can automate it in just a couple of hours by using, for example, I don't know, Cloud Code. Of course, I will go with Cloud Code because I want to be productive. And people at the school, they are doing exactly the same thing. What it needs to change is the way that we are, like teaching people at the school, so they are using it in the right manner. So we will see a gap, and for the people that is right now, like on the enterprises, they need to know, like for me, like the work with AI, it's funnier. I think the companies that they are trying to use AI just for cost saving, and not for cost saving because of, human labor, like, hey, I can remove all these people from a company and I can get cost saving. Again, they are going to suffer a lot in the future. AI is not just to reduce people, because at the end of the day, like you are also a consumer. So if you are using AI to reduce people, who you are going to sell to, right? I mean, like you need to have these people working. I read a few weeks ago a nice example of IKEA. So IKEA, like replace so many people by using AI, but they, like really find the roles of these people doing different things. So I think this is what you need to do. You need to reinvent your current business, and that's the real key. Because I mean, like right now we are seeing the world as it is right now, but it's going to be completely different in 5 years time, right? So you need to look more in the future and say like, okay, how will I look, or how will I like my business to be? So again, for people, like I try to say always the same thing. I mean, like it's not like you can decide. I mean, like there is no option. This is not another, like a trend. This is not the metaverse. I mean, like this is going to change every single aspect. So the sooner they start, the better. And again, it's funnier. I mean, like I'm not doing anymore, like this kind of super boring task. So I think that's the end goal.
Yeah, I really like that. I like the idea of, while we're going through trying to identify, let's automate everything, it's really about let's redesign work, and let's redesign what an organization looks like with employees that are enhanced with AI so that we can repurpose them. That's sounds wonderful, but I'm not seeing a lot of it in the industry, right? A lot of executives I speak to and in rooms with are really looking to cut costs quickly, start to automate. They go on this process. They don't realize how expensive AI is, and we're not going to get into that yet. But how do we encourage executives to rethink and redesign work and start to take employees on that journey with them?
It's a complete situation, right? I mean, like if you take a look to the geopolitical situation, I mean, like it's hard because everyone they want to take the same approach. Like, hey, I want to reduce costs by like fighting people, and we have seen already, like many companies that they need to come back and recruit these peoples because they need it, right? So I think we already have some good examples of companies that they are growing and they are using AI, not because like they are like fighting people, but because they are redefining their business. And probably the best example right now is many software companies that they are embedding AI into their products, so they are doing their products much better than what it used to be in the past. I mean, like I'm using Slack, I'm using Salesforce, and it's completely different how I was handling with this tool in the past rather than how it is today, right? So I think that's probably like the path to follow. Like, hey, I'm going to redefine my like a current business by using AI, and doesn't need to be obvious for the people. I mean, like doesn't need to be powered by AI in any way. I mean, like it needs to be like it's going to make my life much easier. Again, Anthropic is a great example, right? They have like amazing models, but they have integrated AI in the sense that it's been super productive with this cloud code work, integrated with PowerPoint, Sheets for many different verticals. I think that's the real key, and it seems obvious, but actually it's not, right? So again, we have examples of companies that are doing really great. They are reinventing the businesses. Again, 11 Labs is another great example. They are not selling models anymore. I mean, like they are redefining how you communicate with with your people, and I think that's the path that we should follow. But again, the challenge here is like the evolution pace. I mean, like this technology is evolving much faster than the time that it takes, like, to adapt into it. So we will always have a gap. And sometimes I'm pessimistic in the sense that we are going to live like very tough moments for many companies, many families, because they won't have time to readapt. And of course, at some point of time, economy can collapse. But it's just because of that. It's not because AI it's removing jobs. It's because like we have like two different speeds. One that it's going super fast, like evolving at something that it's incredibly crazy for all of us, and we have another speed that is taking too long to adopt all these technologies to transform the businesses and so on. And that's quite complicated. And it may happen. It may happen. It depends on us.
Yeah, I think that's a really interesting. It's an interesting thought process. So, I'm kind of saying it depends on us. What I'm starting to see a shift in now is as obviously AI is becoming more capable. The shift from what AI can do quickly becomes where can we implement it. But the ultimate, I think, and something I'm really curious to see if you're seeing it, is this shift into people that can think critically, people that can communicate, people that have domain expertise across a business or a function seem to now be empowered to be able to build with these tools and to start to think about those future solutions. Are you seeing that in teams currently?
100%. I think like experience and like this kind of seniorship it's is paramount these days. I always put the same example, right? I think it was in the 80s. Most of the like airline companies they decided to like pilots they will have to use more the autopilot mode, right? And it was not a coincidence, but after that, like the number of incidents, not accidents, the number of, like incidents started to grow. And it was not because of the autopilot. It's because, like the pilots, they were losing their main, like skills, abilities, because they were not, like running the plane. So they were losing their skills, right? So I think these models they are great for many different tasks, but it's still like this kind of like a critical thinking. There is something that is very deep for humans that is this kind of like smell, right? Like when you are, I mean, like when I'm in front of a customer, I can smell like, hey, what is gonna happen? We have this instinct that is not part of the models. At least for now, is for now it's not part of the models. That's why it's so important that we cultivate this, and we need to amplify these skills, right? Of course, there is a challenge that like I'm living in a different era, right? I mean, like I was growing in an era where we didn't have AI, so I had the chance to become more like a senior leader.
Yeah.
But like if we
Yeah.
don't give this opportunity to like to junior people, how they are going to become senior? But I do agree with you. I mean, like AI, it's amazing, but it's even more powerful when you are really able to potentiate your deepest skills, and again, critical thinking, this kind of
Mm-hmm.
instinct, and so on, it's paramount these days.
Yeah, I love that. All right, let's get into trust for a second, because I think the common thread is AI can do more, right? It's going from question answering to now being able to act, workflows start to finish. Um, how do we start to think about when a human should be in the loop on an AI process? And more importantly, how do we position ourselves to ensure that we're constantly fact checking these systems so that we can trust them, and that we do have that, confidence and reliability in the fact that we are automating something that maybe a human might have done better?
I don't think I have an answer for that, and let me explain, right? I mean,
Yeah.
like, we as humans, we are not perfect, right? And we assume we are going to be wrong many times. So we are driving a car and we
Yeah.
may have an accident. But of course, if it's my fault, someone will come to me and will say, okay, I will blame you because it was your fault.
Yeah.
And this is not happening, for example, here in Europe with autonomous cars. We are not putting autonomous cars in the street because they need to blame someone, right? And of course, they are not going to be perfect, but they're going to be much better than us. With
Yeah.
this kind of autonomous system, it's happening the same thing. We need to put at some point of time this human in the loop,
Yeah.
but it's really complicated at which states, because if we are putting the human in the loop like in so many different parts of the processes, we are not automating anything. If it's too late, it's going to be like late to take the decision. So I really don't know in many cases when do we have to take it. Maybe we need to categorize, a list of use cases, list of, like a risk, and we
Mhm.
need to say like, okay, if this is like super high level risk, we need to put someone in the process. Of course, we need to identify this kind of, like a risk in the beginning. But yeah,
Yeah.
I know it's quite complicated, because we also need to assume and we need to understand that these systems, they are going to fail, and they're going to fail as we do, but
Yeah.
for sure they're going to be failing less than we do in many different cases. So I think it's something that we need to categorize and then work on that.
Yeah, I think the idea of accountability, who's accountable? Is it the person that was in the loop? Is it the person that owns the agent? Is it the model provider? Is it the technology provider? Who in that stack is ultimately responsible when something goes wrong? I think is a question that we haven't answered yet in the industry. Would you agree?
I do agree, but for that we have Europe that we love this kind of regulation, and I'm sure like someone there, they will invent some kind of like regulation to address all these problems.
So my last question, I'm so glad that you brought up Europe and governing, and it's my work. It's what I do every single day. Um, how are you seeing that impact Europe's innovation? Is it hindering innovation, or do you believe ultimately that it's going to be better for innovation in the long run?
Maybe in the long term, well, I'm sure in the long term it's going to be better, but right now in many different cases, it's like a stopping innovation. And I'm saying this not because of me. I'm talking to like founders, builders every single week here across Europe,
Yeah.
and it's quite hard to build something because of these regulations. I mean, like, we have technology that we simply cannot use, and just like a stupid example, there are like the airports with the like a live translation that they were not available to be used here in Europe. That it's even crazy, right? So I
Mhm.
think in many different ways, like it's stopping innovation. I do believe in the long term it's something that we need to do, and for sure I believe in regulation. You need to regulate these things, because even it's becoming like super dangerous. Even if you're talking about kids and so on, right now, like it's quite challenging to differentiate what is real versus what is not real. So we need this kind of regulation, but we need to do it in the right manner. When the end goal is just the regulation itself, that's a problem. And this is what is happening, like many times here. We are just thinking about the regulation, and the end goal, that shouldn't be the regulation itself.
Yeah, it needs to be something that evolves, but could be baked into maybe an AI program from the get go. Ah, you're incredible. Thank you so much. So we're at time, but where do people follow you? You post some incredible articles. I've been following your work for quite some time. So is LinkedIn the best spot? Can we find you anywhere else?
Yeah, I mean, like LinkedIn is probably like the best place. Otherwise, all over the world, if I'm like attending some kind of like conference, summit, and like everyone who is here in Spain, more than happy to always like take a coffee, talk about AI. But yeah, definitely LinkedIn. It's the best place for me to reach out.
Thank you so much.
It was a pleasure.